Everything that you desire, that you believe you have, you will receive. It is the belief in the thing that makes it happen. The belief is the reality. Act as if you were, and you will become. Persist in this assumption, and it will harden into fact. Remember, it is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe to be true.
Napoleon had a coin that he would toss in the air before he fought any battle. If it landed on heads, victory. If it landed on tails, defeat. But here's the catch. Every time Napoleon tossed that coin, it landed on heads. Every single time. His generals watched in disbelief. "How?" they asked. Napoleon smiled and said nothing. Because he knew the truth, he wasn't playing the odds. He was commanding reality. After his death, the coin was found, and they finally understood his secret. The coin had no tail. Both sides were heads. Napoleon didn't hope for victory. He assumed it and made the world obey. And here's the part you don't want to hear. You do this too, every day, with every thought you repeat, every emotion you hold. You're tossing your own coin, not in chance, but in certainty. Because reality doesn't follow what you wish would happen. It follows what you assume is true. The question is, what have you been assuming about your life, your worth, your power? And are you willing to flip the coin and never let it land on tails again? Most people hope. They want things to improve. They wish for change. But hoping is passive. It waits for permission. Assumption doesn't wait. It doesn't ask. It commands. This is the law of assumption, not wishful thinking, not blind faith, but the deliberate embodiment of a reality as already true. When you assume, you don't chase. You don't beg. You inhabit the outcome now. Weak minds believe life is random, that results come from chance, hard work, or the approval of others. Strong minds know that reality bends to inner authority. Because here's the truth. The world mirrors your assumptions. Every outcome, every interaction, every coincidence. All shaped by the inner state you carry, consciously or not. If you assume struggle, you will find it. If you assume rejection, it will greet you. If you assume success, respect, power, you don't chase them. You generate them. This is not belief. Belief hopes something is true. Assumption acts as if it already is. There is no hesitation in assumption. No negotiation, no self-doubt. You don't ask, will this happen? You move as though it already has. That is the posture of power. Not effort, alignment. And the world responds. Because reality isn't fixed. It is shaped moment by moment, by consciousness in motion. You've seen this. The person who always gets what they want, not because they're lucky, but because they expect it. Their energy is settled, certain, and the world adjusts to fit. You've also seen the opposite. People who wait, hesitate, collapse into fear, and reality echoes their uncertainty. This is why assumption is the dividing line, not between good and bad people, but between those who live by chance and those who live by choice. When you assume something fully, it becomes inevitable. Because you are no longer acting as the person who wants the result. you are acting as the person who already has it. And that shifts everything. Your body language, your words, your decisions, all align with the reality you've already accepted. This is the source of true influence, true manifestation, true power. But it requires something most people fear. Letting go of doubt, letting go of control, and stepping into the unknown as if it is already yours. Assumption doesn't ask for proof, it creates it. And the world has no choice but to mirror what you refuse to question. Neville Goddard gave the world a radical truth. Not a method, but a law. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not visualize. Not hope. Assume. To him, the imagination was not fantasy. It was the workshop of reality itself. Your inner world wasn't just private, it was causal. But here's what most people missed, and why their manifestation fails. Assumption is not thinking about the outcome. It's not reciting affirmations, setting intentions, or begging the universe. Assumption is embodiment. You don't desire the result. You feel it is done and align every thought, breath, and action with that truth. Neville said, "To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to be lifted up to the state of consciousness that would be yours were the desire already fulfilled." This is why most people never manifest anything real, because they never enter that state. They hope, they wish, they wait, but their nervous system, their emotional state, is still wired for lack, for separation. The world doesn't follow what you say. It follows what you feel as real. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to become the version of you who already has it. And this is not passive. It requires emotional courage to step into the identity before proof arrives, to feel certainty in the absence of evidence. This is why assumption is not belief. Belief can waver. Assumption acts without doubt. You're not trying to be successful. You are success now. This is not delusion. It's conscious creation, and it's how reality always works. Neville taught that every state of being has its own world. When you change your state, your external world must conform. Why? Because the outer world is a mirror, nothing more. It reflects back the assumptions you refuse to question. The question is, what state are you willing to assume? Because once you claim it, the rest is just the world catching up. Assumption isn't just technique. It's ancient power, spoken in philosophy, mysticism, and esoteric law. Nietzsche called it the will to power, not dominance over others, but the force that shapes reality from within. The one who wills powerfully doesn't wait for permission. He assumes his own becoming, and the world bends to reflect it. He wrote, "All great things occur beyond good and evil, beyond hope and fear, in the domain of command." Assumption is command. It is will, fully embodied. Not effort, but declaration through being. Carl Jung spoke of the inner world projecting the outer. The psyche, when unconscious, generates fate. But when conscious, it becomes the architect of experience. He warned, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Assumption makes the unconscious visible, and then sovereign. When you assume a new state, you rewrite the pattern. You change the resonance, and the world, as mirror, adjusts. This isn't new. The Hermetic law of correspondence says, as within, so without. And the law of mentalism declares, all is mind, the universe is mental. Reality is not fixed. It is malleable because it is mental at its root. This is the alchemy of assumption, not symbolic, but practical transmutation, from desire to embodiment, from lack to presence, from I want to I am. The alchemists sought to transform lead into gold. But the real gold is this: the human being who masters their inner state and no longer waits for the world to change. They change themselves, and reality obeys. Assumption is not positive thinking. It is inner authority, expressed through feeling, intention, and action aligned. This is why mystics entered altered states, why rituals existed, to create the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to live the desired reality internally. So the external world had no choice but to reflect it. This is not fiction. It's the mechanics of consciousness. Your inner world is not isolated. It is causal. When you assume you're not influencing reality, you are initiating it. This is the praxis, not hoping, not waiting, but embodying the chosen state now, through the will, the imagination, and the heart. Assumption is the ancient force beneath all magic, all manifestation, all transformation. And once you grasp it, you don't ask the world to change. You assume that it already has. Assumption is not modern. It is primordial, encoded in Hermetic law, preserved in myth, and practiced by those who knew. The mind is not in the world. The world is in the mind. The first Hermetic axiom declares, all is mind. The universe is mental. This isn't poetry. It's structure. Reality, at its root, is mental substance shaped by conscious will. What you assume to be real becomes real, because you are not just in creation. You are of it, and you share in its power. The ancients understood this. In Egyptian thought, Ta spoke the world into being, not by effort, but by declaring it so. In Greek myth, Prometheus brought fire, not just light, but the power of creation and will, stolen from the gods and given to man. What is this fire? It is conscious assumption, the inner power to generate reality, no longer waiting for divine permission. In the Emerald Tablet, it is written, that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. That one thing is assumption. The inner state mirrored into the outer world, not by chance, but by law. Hermeticism teaches that creation begins in imagination, solidifies through feeling, and emerges through alignment. This is not symbolic, it is functional magic. Assumption is the engine of it. The divine spark within you is not passive. It is the faculty to declare, to assume, and to shape reality through certainty of being. This is why the gods spoke reality into form. They didn't build it, they assumed it into existence. Assumption, then, is the God force in motion. To embody a state as already true is to create as the gods did, not with struggle, but with command. This is why ancient mystery schools guarded this knowledge. Because a person who learns to assume reality does not obey it. They generate it. This is the great inversion. The masses wait for signs. The initiate becomes the cause. The myth of creation was never about distant gods. It was about you and your power to create reality through inner alignment. Assumption is not belief. It is the primordial act of creation. As within, so without, not as theory, but as law. And once you wield it, you cease to live in a world of effects. You live as the origin. You've been taught to wait, to hope, to obey the world around you. But the truth is older than that lie. Reality follows assumption, not chance, not effort. Assumption. This is not philosophy. It is law, written into the fabric of existence, known by the few, forgotten by the many. You are not here to chase outcomes. You are here to generate them. Through the will, through the imagination, through the act of assuming who you are now. The gods spoke reality into being. So do you. Every thought, every feeling, every state you refuse to question, it becomes your world. The only question is this: are you assuming lack, or are you assuming power? At Arcane Praxis, we do not hope. We assume. We do not wait for the world to shift. We shift it from within. Leave behind the language of doubt. Speak the new world into being. You are not a product of fate. You are the origin. Act accordingly.